Coming up on One, we're going to meet the Associate Superintendent of the Diocese of Houma-Thibodaux. You won't want to miss this episode. We'll be right back. One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. All right, Ms. Gerrie, thank you so much for being on One. We appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I want you to take me way back. Let's go to the earliest years that you can remember. We know where you are now, but there had to be some kind of pattern getting to where you are now. So what's the earliest years you can remember? Where were you? Paint a picture for me if you could.
Well, I was born and raised in Morgan City. I've spent all my years of education in Catholic schools, starting with Sacred Heart Elementary, which closed in 1993. Had nuns there back in the day, lots of wonderful priests associated with my development there. Went on from Sacred Heart to Central Catholic High School. After I graduated, I went to Nichols. Actually did not pursue a degree in education. I have a degree in speech, language, and hearing. Once I got married, my husband has a business in Morgan City, so education was a good place for me. And went on to spend all my time teaching.
So you sort of changed direction in midstream.
I did. I did.
So would flexible be a word to describe you?
Yes. I would say flexible would be a great word.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So as you went to Sacred Heart and you went to Central Catholic, and of course I went to a Catholic school, so I probably know how you're going to answer it. The discipline of the religious order that taught, was it, in your opinion, strict or just very to the point?
For me, it was to the point, and I would also elaborate a bit more and say the expectations were high. And it was presented in such a way, for me, that I wanted to live up to the expectations. But I do not have horror stories of religious orders in growing up in schools. They were all wonderful, but I do think they have very high expectations and really tried to guide you to live up to those expectations.
But I've also learned over the years that people who criticized the teachers a lot of times didn't have high expectations. So was that instilled in you at an early age by your parents, or did they sort of stress education to you?
They did, especially my dad. My dad grew up actually on a 2-room houseboat in the river. He was one of 12. So for him, education was always very important. Out of the 12, he was the only one to finish school.
Really?
So from there, worked in the oil field for Shell Oil for a long time. So really pushed us, my siblings and I, to pursue college degrees and recognize the importance of education.
So you mentioned your siblings. How large a family were you a part of?
I have a sister and a brother, so not too big.
So from 12 to 3.
Right. Big difference.
I guess he wised up over the years, right?
Yes.
One of 12. How do you get any attention when you're one of 12?
I do not know. I only have 2. My husband and I felt like we could handle 2. We could each take one. So, yeah.
So as you're coming through, and you said you switched gears once you got married, but were you a good student?
I loved learning. At this age, I still love learning. So I did apply myself in school and in college, and I enjoyed that aspect.
What was your favorite subject going through school?
I would actually say math and science.
Really? You were a numbers kind of person.
Well, you know, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no room for interpretation, right?
That's a good point. You're in charge of what? Curriculum and everything else? How much do you rely on your past?
I think as individuals, we all have to bring our perspectives from where we came. So I do rely on my past in handling situations now. However, you can't just look at your past, because in education, we have to move forward. And with technology, things are changing every day for all of us, but in the world of education as well. So we can't stay stagnant. So I do bring, I guess, the most important thing from my past that I bring is my passion for learning. So wherever that is, whoever needs assistance, that's really what I do. I assist principals and teachers if they need any sort of help with projects and strategies and that sort of thing. So I will always bring my love of learning into that aspect.
Take me from Sacred Heart School to Central Catholic to all the schools that you were at, what you did before you got to the role that you're at now. I'm trying to figure out how everything shaped.
Right.
Why you're at now.
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, I always loved learning. I loved the teachers that were very passionate about pushing you to do your best and expecting more from you and guiding you to get there. So I think that helped to develop me. I also was very involved all through growing up, whether it was student council, cheerleader, volleyball, whatever I could do. I liked being involved because I think I always liked helping other people and working with other people. Those same characteristics I bring to the job that I'm at now.
So you were pretty versatile. I mean, student council, athletics, studying, that's all different mechanisms that make somebody tick. You had to switch gears a lot, didn't you?
I did. It was also one of the beauties of being in a smaller school.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that, yes.
How many students, I mean, we used to compete against Central Catholic. You're right, it was always a smaller school. What was around the average enrollment?
You know, when we were there, enrollment for grades 7 through 12 was about 400, 450. It's about half that now.
Wow.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
In your role now, what would be a meeting if I was meeting as someone that you were trying to get your curriculum, in their mindset? What would that meeting be like? What would you stress to them?
Focus on the students first.
Okay.
Sometimes we get a curriculum, which is really, that's our objectives. That's what we want our students to be able to do when they finish that course, or know when they finish that course. But every student is different. So that's the number one thing I stress, that as educators, we do really have to get to know our students. And we can't think that they are all going to fit one mold, one activity. If we really want those students to learn, we have to be able to reach them where they are.
Does the curriculum change with geographic areas? Because now I'm not trying to say one area is smarter than the other, but they may have setbacks in certain areas. So when you're setting a curriculum across the board for the diocese, is it pretty much the same?
Well, the objectives are the same. The skills and strategies are the same, but how we get there may be different. The order that we put them may be different. Because you're right, whether we're talking about our diocese, our state, our country, wherever you are, there are differences. Based on, to go back to our earlier conversation, people have different perspectives, they have different experiences. That's also something that challenges teachers. We have to take that into consideration when we are trying to educate our students.
So did you ever think you'd be sitting down doing a one-on-one about the school systems and the Catholic schools, Diocese of Houma Thibodeau? Was that ever something that registered to you early on, or you just sort of go with the flow?
That has never, ever, ever crossed my mind. If you would have told me even 5 years ago that I would be associate superintendent, I would have laughed. I feel even professionally, I love, as I've said, working with students, working with other teachers. But my move out of the classroom was not something I initiated. It was something a principal pushed me into. And I feel like that's pretty much been everything that's happened for me professionally. Like, as you said, I guess I'm flexible. I guess I can help
Sort of
out
go
where
with the
it's
flow.
needed.
Yeah. Now, you said associate, and I introduced you as assistant. I might have to correct. Associate means you're a peer, but in a different where the fork of the road goes. One goes this way, one goes the other. You're an associate.
And I almost mentioned that at the beginning. That was something I have to say, Father PJ, when the new superintendent was hired, he was very adamant about. They took a little while to determine exactly which word they wanted to use. Personally, as I said, I'm more of a behind the scenes.
Right. But associate and assistant are two different things.
Yes, they are.
So I want to make sure we correct the record.
And the expectations are a little bit different as presented to me, yes.
So let me ask you, with Father PJ, such a colorful person, Dr. Mark, colorful person, are you the steady in the room when y'all meet? Because you know, they both vibrant personalities. You have a great personality, but you're more of a steady personality. Is that the way it goes on in a meeting?
Pretty much. I'm quieter and I listen a lot more. And then when I interject, I've thought it out. That's just my personality wherever I am, with friends at dinner. You know, I'll do the same thing. So yeah, I guess I am the quieter person.
Do sometimes people turn to you and go, Gerrie, what do you think? Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
You just absorb, right?
Yes.
Have you always been like that? Even in school?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a son who is just like that too. It's
Really?
fun to watch him.
Okay. Yeah. Yet a pear doesn't fall far from the tree, right? Yeah.
Right.
So what are your goals when you got this role and you said, wow, this is a pretty big challenge, or maybe you didn't say that. What are your goals in the end? What do you want the students to get from the curriculum?
My number one goal, and I've had more than one conversation with Father PJ about it, is Catholic integration in all content areas. Our schools do a wonderful job with educating our youth. They do a wonderful job with Catholic identity and religion classes and service projects. But to truly make sure that in your math class, in your science class, that we are integrating our Catholic standards is a little bit different way of presenting our curriculum than what we've done in the past. And it's something that I'm very passionate about.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
Thinking back to my days at Vanderbilt, when we walked in math class or algebra or geometry or whatever we were in, how do you interject God in a math class? That's pretty unique. How do you do that?
Well,
It's got to come from the teacher, obviously.
It does, and you know, depending on the grade level. But you know, let me make it very simplified. If I'm teaching a lower grade, and maybe we're doing addition facts, or maybe we're working on days of the week, or we're working on sequencing. Well, it's very easy when I'm teaching that lesson to also incorporate in the Bible, where would I see these numbers? Where do I see days of the week? Well, we can talk about Genesis. We don't have to just talk about the creation story in religion. So what we're doing when this happens is we're not making our faith different from everything else. We're making our faith part of everything else in everything that we do.
And
So
you got to get everybody on the same page. So when
Yes.
you get math teachers and science teachers and PE teachers and coaches and everybody, do you get them in one room and sort of tell them what the vision is?
no.
Okay.
In fact, we started this summer with this integration with social studies.
Okay.
So we did have social studies teachers only. And it was voluntary, so we had representatives from elementary and high school. So what we did was we spent time working on, these are the social studies standards that we need to teach our students, and these are the Catholic standards. So how can we integrate the two? So we actually did start that process, and
It's one brick at a time.
it is one, and it does not happen overnight. But
And,
we're
and
working
that's
on
sort of bold. Y'all do have a directive that you're going in, but I'm glad you said that, because some people I've watched them in the past come in and try to change everything all at once. Teachers go in shock, students go in shock, everybody's in a disarray. So one brick at a time. That's more effective, isn't it?
in my opinion, and I am always of that mindset. And you know, even when I was at Central Catholic as curriculum specialist and assistant principal, working with teachers, we would target one or two areas, and we need to get that solid. I'm very foundational. If we don't have a solid foundation, we can't build anything. Right now with this Catholic integration, we're starting small because I have to make sure the teachers understand and the teachers are on board so that this takes effect and that it lasts. So yeah, very foundational.
Change of administration. And you were there for that. Whenever you have a change of administration, sometimes people just get real nervous and get different directions. Archbishop Fobb going off to, bigger domains, I guess we should say. Father PJ comes in. How's the transition been like for you?
For me, it was wonderful. Two different personalities. You mentioned my personality is different from yours and Mark's.
Right.
Two very different personalities, very wonderful individuals. But the transition for me was very smooth. Father PJ probably came in my office within the first week that he was there. I haven't missed a beat because of that transition.
And I would think that they probably have so much trust in you that they come in and say, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's not broken.
Oh, so they have said, yes. So I'm just going to listen, and we're going to keep moving forward for our Catholic education.
But isn't that a great compliment coming from somebody who comes in? Like I said, a lot of people come in and, oh, let me put my thumb on this department. Let me put it on this. Let me change this. Let me change. You must have won them over at one point. You must be doing something right, because for them to let you keep rolling, they must have total faith in you, correct?
Well, I don't know about total faith. I can't speak for them. I do, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, my passion for the integration of Catholic standards. It has been something that I've been very vocal about to Father PJ, Bishop Fobb, Bill. So I think that is something that they are excited about as well.
Where did you get that passion, I guess, for Catholicism? Did it come from your mom? Did it come from your dad? Did it come from both?
I think it came from both, and even my grandmother, I remember, was very faith-filled. And I think growing up in that environment, that Catholic environment, resonated with me. I think it helps mold our children in interactions with people. I think it does help with society. It helps us understand the differences in people and appreciate differences in people.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.